Well, thanks so much for being here, and thanks for taking the time from your busy schedule speaking on world stages. I know you're a busy guy, so I really appreciate you being here.
Well,
with
listen,
us today.
I'm excited to be here. I was excited to chop up with you. And by the way, just as just if you're watching this, you're listening to this, please subscribe to this channel. Rate, review, subscribe. Give this man some love. Look at this setup.
This
Can
setup's
somebody
amazing.
look at this setup?
Shout out to RJ and Planet Sound Studios.
Shout out to them, okay?
Yeah.
That's why we need to subscribe, because this is high quality content. So I'm excited to be on.
So I'm going to give you a little intro here. You are an innovation and disruption strategist. You are a best-selling author of this amazing book here, and keynote speaker. You've spoken around the world. You have not only an Amazon Prime special, but an Apple TV feature as well too. You've been featured on CBC, Globe and Mail, and is it Forbes also too?
Yep.
Amazing.
Well,
Stuff. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, Len. Listen, I just appreciate the book being out here. It looks super sexy. You know? It looks great. But yeah, you know what? I think. Thank you for the introduction. Most importantly, I'm born and raised in Edmonton.
Yes.
And I know you're born
and raised in Edmonton.
Okay, so here we go, right? And I think it's really cool what you're doing, putting Edmonton on the map. And I'm trying to do the same. And we're here in Edmonton. So I love what you're doing, because you're featuring creatives, you're featuring artists, featuring people that are putting this city on the map. And I'm just honored to be on here. So
awesome. Appreciate that. Before I start with some of the questions I had in mind, I wanted to start with a couple things. I think we have a couple things in common. One, you're a big fan of Sam and Sam Parr, Sean Puri. You like their podcast?
I love their
My First Millie.
I love My First Millie. You're a super fan?
Big fan. I
Wow.
love that.
You know what? I think to me, it's like probably in my top 3-4 podcasts, and I love their vibe. I love their ideas. Like, I'm an idea guy, so I love their ideas. And I just love...
They don't hold back, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're like people that I would hang with, right? We just shoot the shit, have a great conversation with. So I love that pod.
Exactly. Second, you have 3 kids under 6?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. You're your father. And both our kids, my kids are 4 and 2, they love Paw Patrol.
Oh, right. There you go.
I saw
Paw Patrol.
About Paw Patrol. Yeah.
Listen, Paw Patrol.
I love that. You watch the Paw Patrol. That's me.
Paw Patrol is like the gospel at my house, man. So, that's really cool. So 4 and 2.
4 and 2.
But you
girls.
look great, man. You look fresh.
I'm tired.
Okay, good.
So take me back to young Shawn. I'm talking like 16, 17-year-old, getting out of high school, Shawn. Where did you start there, and how did you go from there to best-selling author? Like, take me through that journey.
Well, you know what? I think I took a very linear journey with what most South Asians do. Like, they're told to go to university. They're told to get great marks. They're told to get into a field of accounting, engineering, medicine, or something very traditional. So that's actually what I did.
You had no choice.
Exactly. Just like probably you, we had no choice. So my first career was in accounting. I took that for a couple of years. I got my designation there, but I was like, I'm never going to be a great accountant. I always wanted to use that as a platform, as a foundation to get into something else. So I actually ended up getting into management consulting, which I loved consulting, strategy consulting. That's how I got into innovation. That's how I was known as the innovation guy or disruption guy within the firm. And that's where I broke out, a decade later and started to do things on my own, get on stages, write this book, put out a special, all around this idea of innovation. This is what I've dedicated my life to. This is what I'm passionate about. So that was a little bit of the journey, but I think you needed to take that very traditional route just to understand how much it sucks, just so that you can break out of the mold, get out of that path of certainty, of mediocrity, to create something of yourself. And that's what I wanted to dedicate my life to.
Where did it click? I know you were at one of the big 4.
Yep.
Working there, and you became a consultant. Where did you start feeling like this was not for me, and you started pushing those boundaries of innovation, and you started being known for that? Or did you always know you're bound for greatness?
No. I think well, let's bound for greatness is a lofty term, but to me, actually, the big pivot, because I love being in management consulting. I actually love working at Deloitte. I loved every minute of it because I was able to do things, work on really cool projects with really cool people. But actually, what was really interesting is that back in 2017, I started to see this power shift where, because I was putting out ideas, because I was putting out content, writing podcasts, speaking on stages.
This is during your time while
I was at Deloitte, video content. I started to see the power of this. I mean, we're here, we're shooting something. There's 3 I started to see the power of putting out your ideas in the world, and that actually building that mechanism, building your own brand equity, that building your power in a sense. So I saw this power shift from the institution to the individual. And I thought to myself, what if I could do this on my own? What damage, what dent in the universe could I make by doing this on my own? Because I already start to see clients come to me. I already see projects come to me. And I'm like, wait a minute, what if I just did this on my own? What else could I do? And I think many organizations are probably facing this now, where you have a star within your organization because of social media and whatnot. What do you do with that star? And I don't think that the firm was ready to deal with that. And I don't think many organizations today are ready to deal with a star.
Should be? They should be able to grow that star within the organization without them breaking apart on its own.
Oh, absolutely. I think, but the performance metrics have to be different for stars, right? People that are leveraging their power, it has to be different. It has to be very much like a media based model, right? If you look at, for example, what Barstool Sports did with Alex Cooper, they had a breakout hit, Call Her Daddy, within their sort of ecosystem. Call Her Daddy, Alex Cooper, they became like, her podcast became like a rocket ship. And it was like, how does this entity deal with a burgeoning star and her show? What do? And ultimately, they tried to figure out the IP and the economics of it, but she ended up leaving because they weren't able to figure it out. I think in the NBA, they have kind of figured it out, where the employees, LeBron is building his own brand. They're letting him build his own brand. They're letting him sort of explore that.
It brings viewership to NBA.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we have to realize that today that the most disruptive entity in the world is the individual. People follow people, not companies. More and more companies should realize that people follow people. And so if you want to draw attention to your particular company, to your league, to whatever it is, you have to embrace the people that are within your organization.
Empower them.
And we are in the age of empowerment. We are in the age of the individual. And I was an early part of that back in 2017, and I saw that. And that's the reason why I wrote this book. The reason why I wrote this book is because I saw the power shift from institutions to individuals. And that's why I wrote the book, because I was a part of that. I was a part of that.
Is that why you wanted to write the book? Because you wanted to teach others how to...
I've been trying to scream out. I've been trying to tell people for the last 5 years that the power is shifting to the individuals. And I want to put that into a book to say the bold ones have changed history. The individuals have always changed history, and they can change history more today than they ever before, because now we have all the technologies at our fingertips. We have all the media platforms at our fingertips. You can build billion-dollar businesses with very small teams today.
Right.
Like, you can build massive organizations with a very small team, a very small footprint. And that's incredible. That's the possibility today.
So you're hoping to tell others to do the same, so they can read the book, so they can feel empowered and they can do that.
Yeah. And part of the reason why I wrote the book is not just for founders or entrepreneurs. It's for people that are actually working within organizations to say, listen, you can make a massive impact within the organization. You don't have to go off and become an entrepreneur. You don't have to become a founder. You can still make a massive impact in the world, in the universe, still working for somebody else.
Whether it be in the organization or as a side gig or whatever your passion is.
Exactly. Like, literally the first chapter of the book features a guy, Ken Kutaragi, who worked for Sony, literally created the entire video game boom, and he worked within Sony. And he did that. He was still a GOAT working for Sony. So it's possible. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And today we have more possibility than any time back in that time.
100%.
Possibility is definitely there.
And I think the organizations should read the book, and they should understand that, listen, the power is shifting. So how do we design a environment? How do we design the performance management framework for our employees so that they can thrive, so that they can build their own power? They can build economically and for the organization. Like, it's just, we haven't figured that out yet.
So writing the book, probably not an easy feat. How did you get there? For those who want to, have their own specials on Apple TV and Amazon Prime, get their own book out, they want to be a writer. What are the steps? What are the journey? What was the hurdles to get to that, that point?
Pain. You have to suffer the pain. You have to be able to suffer and go through a process of figuring out the next step. Like, to me, it's like, Okay, I want to write a book. What's the first step?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I gotta find an idea. Okay, so get the idea. Oh, what's the next step? I gotta find a literary agent. You find a literary agent. After that, okay, we gotta write a proposal. Okay, write a proposal. Okay, after that, we gotta write, a couple chapters. Okay, write that. Then you gotta pitch it. Like, it's every single part of it is a process.
A lot of work.
Even with a special. Okay, what do? We shoot this.
How did that special come about? So those are curious. How did you get a call from execs at Apple? Like, hey, we want you to come on here. How did that work?
You know what? It was always on my bucket list that I wanted to put out something on a streaming platform, whether it was Apple or Netflix or Prime or wherever else. I always was inspired. I was inspired by rock stars, inspired by stand-up comedians, and how they use that particular platform in order to gain a different audience. And for me, being in content and putting out videos or podcasts or putting out the book, I thought the special would be a really nice way of expanding my audience globally, to folks that want to find out what innovation is all about. So it's always been on my bucket list. I swear to God, like since 2017, I would cross off my goals off my list in my Evernote, and then every single year that would remain. Create a special on a streaming platform. Create a special, and then every year I'm like, okay, what are the? I just broke it down. Literally at the beginning of 2022, I broke it down. How do you reverse engineer it?
I love that.
How do you reverse engineer it? Well, you need a product. Like, you need to create something that somebody would buy.
Did that come in your goals before the book did, or at the same time? Both on the list at the same time.
They were both on the list. The book was crossed off before then.
Right.
And that was remaining. So I literally went step by step. Okay, how would I do this? Well, number one, I need to create the product, because I know that what I'm trying to create is something that no one has created before. So I can't pitch this. I need to build it and then sell it afterwards. So there's no questions. Because if you're trying to pitch something that no one has done, then people will be like, I don't trust it. But if you build something and then try to sell it, you have a way better shot. So what are the next steps? So I'm like, okay, well, I want to shoot this special. I need a theater. I need to bring people to the theater. I need to build out the actual special. I need to bring a production team together. I need to do all that. So I set a date, which is probably the most important thing. Set a date, and then everything conspires around that date, right? Set a date to shoot it, bring people out, shoot it, edit it, put it together, and then you're pitching it. That's the next step. You're trying to pitch it to all these production companies so that they can put it onto different streamers.
Was that hard process? You get a lot of
That
no's?
was the hardest process, because I got not only even no's, like just no returns.
No replies.
Not only no's, but like no returns. Like Netflix was like, no, it's not what we're looking for right now. Other production companies were like interesting, but they never got back, and I ended up signing a deal with the Nacelle company. They put out a lot of specials. Jim Gaffigan, Kevin Hart, like they've done everybody, and signed a deal with them. They put it on. They have a existing relationship with a whole bunch of different platforms: Apple TV, Prime, Roku, Vimeo, like a whole bunch of different platforms. And so they put it out, and it was sort of out in the world. So the most difficult part was the pitching process. And then not even that, like, it's like entertainment lawyers, like figuring out like, how do I have this big screen behind me? Should the graphics be there? Like, there's so many little steps along the way. Insurance, like I didn't know any of this stuff. It's my first foray into like media, entertainment, Hollywood. So just trying to figure that out was it literally took a year to figure that whole thing out. But I just know for the next endeavor, you have to go through that like uncertainty to figure out what is the very next step, and go through the suffering to deal with that next step, and just figure it out.
For all those no's that you're getting, other people, our audience listening, they may get no's in other things in life, not just pitching here. But how do you know, you're discouraged? Some people get 20, 30, 40, 100 no's, and all of a sudden that 101st one is the yes. How do you tell yourself, or how do you motivate yourself to just keep that going?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It's obviously very hard when you get rejected that many times. It's very hard. I think one of the great parts of my life is that I took this job when I was in university. I worked like for this company called Intercall Canada. They were selling basically like Zoom in like 2001. Okay, so imagine like trying to call people to sell people on Zoom like video conferencing. Hey, your people can work remotely.
They're like, what's the internet?
Yeah. They're like, what is that? Got so many rejections, right? And just working that summer and just getting punched in the face every single day, hundreds of times every single day, you just learn that,
Build up
hey,
that callus of
you build this muscle around, actually, in order to get a yes, you have to go through 100 no's. That's just life. And so, fortunately, I was able to build that muscle to understand that you have to get 100 no's. Like, I have one of my biggest fears in life is people going back to their emails. Like, if you're a really notable person in the world, if you work for Instagram, Facebook, wherever else, like seeing the emails that I've sent to everyone on the planet with whatever company that I've been trying to build, just sending moonshot emails, right? Hey, can we work with you? I'm at Deloitte. Like, hey, I
do that all day long.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to pull back and they'll be like, Eric, they're just going to look up your name and see all the emails that were sent. Somebody's going to look back and look at all the Shawn Kanungo emails that they got and all the emails that they did not respond to me, because it's just
crickets
like,
for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, you got to build that muscle. And for those who are going through the 100th rejection, I would just say, keep on going, and go through the next 100, and then maybe go through the next 100, and then maybe reevaluate. Yeah. Like, you have to go through the first 100 and then go through it again. I
hear a lot of founder stories. It's like, they ask for loans, they pitch whatever, and it's like their 60th where they finally hit, and now they're like $1 billion company.
100%. Yeah. I think there was a great line, and it's funny because I used to say to people, how do I get into public speaking? How do I get into keynote speaking? I say, do 100 keynotes, and then ask me how to get into keynote speaking. I think Mr. Beast said this as well. Like, he's like, how to become a YouTuber? He's like, do 100 videos, and then come back to me after you do 100 videos and ask me the same question.
Yeah.
So,
because at that point, you might not even have that question.
You won't. Yeah. You won't have the question
you have a more educated question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you got to go through it in order to ask the right questions.
A couple things from your book. You talk about the word dangerous. I know you like that word. What makes someone a dangerous or bold person?
You know what? I love the word dangerous. And actually, funny story is that the original title of the book was actually Dangerous Ones.
Oh, wow.
That was the original title of the book. And my publisher thought that that title wouldn't work, because they thought it would be a title for serial killers or something. Like, somebody would pick up this book and it would be like, this book is for like terrorists or something like that. So this was a difficult decision, but my agent was against it. One of my consultants was against it, but my publisher wanted to change it to Bold Ones. And I actually love the word bold. Mm-hmm. And so ultimately we changed it to Bold Ones. It was my first book. Pop McGraw-Hill, God bless them, great publisher. But I went with their advice around the Bold Ones. And I love that they did. But to me, bold and dangerous is synonymous with each other. And to me, the bold one is really somebody that is willing to go through the fire in order to move forward with their particular career, their project, their idea. It's somebody that is unafraid, or somebody that is afraid, but willing to move forward, even though the odds are stacked against them. So I think many people think about the bold ones as somebody that's confident. They think that the bold one is somebody that has all the right, resources around them, or they have like this I don't know, this godly sort of presence. But it's really people that are afraid, but they still move forward with their particular ideas. And I wanted to highlight people throughout pop culture, through history, and highlight the people that were doing things differently, even though they were afraid. And this book is an example of some of those individuals throughout history.
Disrupting.
And they're disrupting. And what I love about...
How do you become a bold one?
How do you become...
Other than reading your book, of course.
Yeah.
Buying and reading your book.
Well, the beautiful thing, what I learned about, learning and researching bold ones throughout history is that there's so many ways of becoming bold. There's so many ways of entering into this arena of boldness, whether it's tinkering, experimenting, like moonlighting on the side of your particular job and building that muscle around experimentation, or it's it's doing something that's fundamentally different from your particular industry, or being a rookie in a particular industry, but applying some of the things that you've learned throughout history and applying this, remixing this for a new industry. There's so many ways of thinking about becoming a bold one. And I want to highlight all those different ways of doing it. And the best part is that there is no one path. Everybody becomes a bold one
in their own way.
In their own way. But the beautiful part, I'm getting passionate about this. The beautiful part is that anybody can be a bold one. That anybody can change history. And it starts by just doing something that's authentic to you, that's different, and ultimately creating value in the world. And
sometimes it's the least likely individuals, right?
And most of the time, it's the people that are least likely. It's
right.
Most of the times that are people that have a very traditional background, or they're from an environment that, they didn't have other bold ones around them. And it's usually people that are coming out of the woodwork. Absolutely.
You talk about hot streaks. I really like that part of the book. Tell me what is a hot streak, and how does one get on a hot streak?
I have been so fascinated by this idea of a hot streak. The idea that you can create this like prolific or innovative career. There's a really interesting study done a couple of years ago by Dushan Wang and his team. And they analyzed thousands of different creatives, thousands of different artists and film producers to figure out, why are these individuals, how do they create hot streaks? How do they become so prolific and so innovative? And what they discovered through this research by analyzing all these data points is that the way that these people become prolific and innovative is they actually go through what I call wasteful journeys. They go through years of exploring, playing, trying different things, and then at some point they put it all together. Like they explore for years, and then at some point they exploit their learnings. Like if you look at somebody like Judd Apatow, for example. Judd Apatow for years was doing stand-up comedy. He was writing a show, Freaks and Geeks. He was doing all these things, and at some point he had his most prolific run, the most prolific run in comedy history in terms of movies, because he put everything together. He exploited that point. And you look at Vincent van Gogh. Through years, he was like figuring out colors, figuring out portraits. Like,
so there's no hack for hot streak. You got to put in the reps.
You actually have to waste time. You actually have to like explore different avenues. You have to develop different skills, and then you have to put it together. That's one of the ways of creating a hot streak. And I think there's other ways of like creating intensity, like creating massive action around a particular goal or project. And the beautiful thing that I realized is that once you put intensity around a particular idea or project, let's say you want to write a book, and you put all your forces around that particular book, other people around you be like, this person is unstoppable. I am not going to stop this person. So we are just going to get out of the way. And it's crazy how the universe will sort of conspire for you to accomplish your goal. So if you approach things with intensity, you're gonna ultimately make it happen.
So energy goes where focus is, or focus goes, right? Yeah. What's that line there?
It's crazy, because it's like, on one side it's good to waste your time, and on the other side it's good to be completely intense and exploit as much as possible once you have a goal in mind. Do you know what I mean? So it's explore and then exploit like hell. Explore and then exploit like hell.
Another concept I liked, and I've heard this many times, and I don't know if this is the right numbers, but people sometimes die at 23, but not buried till 98.
Yeah.
I think you might have mentioned that one too. How does one avoid that? Life goes by so fast. You get into your career, all of a sudden, you're a parent, all of a sudden 10 years goes by, all of a sudden they move out of the house. How do you avoid, dying at 23 and being buried at 98?
Well, listen, I was dead at 23. I was dead at 23, and I'm still trying to revive myself. The idea that most people die at 23, but they're not buried until they're 87, is this idea that, we're told throughout our lives that you can do whatever you want, follow your dreams, be bold. But what happens is that once you get out of school, you realize that your pursuits, your ambitions, your dreams, they fall apart, because you're like, wait, I can't do this. Like, look at the debt that I'm in. Yeah. Look at this schooling that I got. look at this position that I'm getting right out of school. Like, and unfortunately, what society trains you to do is they train you to follow a certain path. They train you to be mediocre at the end of the day. And unfortunately,
The safe route.
the safe route. And once you join an organization, guess what? The first week when you join an organization, they ingrain you with your processes, the procedures. They literally put it in your DNA. And when you ask, hey, why are you doing this? Why do you do this the way that you do? We're like, shut up, rookie, learn the game. And the game has always been follow the rules. And at 23 years old, you are taught that. And you just die slowly after 23.
Mm-hmm.
You die on what I call the assembly line. We are all trained to work on an assembly line. School is about training yourself to work on an assembly line. And at 23 years old, we just die a slow death.
It's
and
so
listen,
easy to fall into that for years.
100%.
10 years goes by like this.
And I died. I died at 23. My dreams, my ambitions, my pursuits. I'm like, this. I don't know. This is just like the linear path. I'm just on this path. But you can still survive. You can still get off the assembly line. You can still deviate from
What's that first step?
And the first step is flexing a muscle to say, let me try to do something differently. Let me explore my passions outside of my own job, my own cubicle, my own career. And what I started to do is, like, my friends and I, we would like create these stupid videos. We created a creative film group known as Nelson Spooner. We would create movies. My friends and I, we created a mobile app company when the App Store came out, and we were just exploring what it would look like to create mobile apps. And because I was exploring and doing things outside of my own career, outside of the assembly line,
grow.
Yeah, you create muscles. And by the way, once I created those muscles outside of what I was doing, I was like, oh wait, I can actually apply this to my actual job. And then I started to get into the digital space and the innovation space at my work. And then I'm like, wait, I can do this on my own. And so you can survive. You can survive by just like starting small, by doing something that you're passionate about outside of your career. That's how you avoid death.
Take that first step.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You teach innovation to the corporate world, to CEOs, to leaders, people everywhere. How do you teach innovation and disruption to your little ones, to your kids, to the children?
Yeah. Well, the funny
Especially
thing,
at the young age.
It's a great question because they're actually teaching me. The most innovative person in the world is a 6-year-old. They're willing to take unbridled risks. They're willing to
dream big,
break rules.
Yeah.
They're willing to dream big. Ask them what they want to be in their career at 6 years old, and they want to like
astronaut.
They want to go to the moon and build a museum there, right?
What happens to that later on in life? That just dies off,
I think you start to realize that you start to become more realistic.
Yeah.
You start to realize that things cost a lot of money. You start to realize that, the world's not built for these big dreams. And my greatest inspiration is seeing my kids and seeing their dreams. And I actually, the greatest gift that I think I can give my kids is that I'm actually still dreaming, that my wife and I are still dreaming. I think that's the greatest gift, because the reality is that, like most of my friends, they're turning 40. I'm 38. I'm turning 40 in 2 years. I don't know what happens, and you tell me if this happens to your friend group, but I just feel like when you have kids and you're nearing 40, you're not dreaming as much. You're kind of just like living for, like most people are living for their kids.
You fall into that daily routine.
Right?
Yeah.
And I want to show my kids that I'm still dreaming, because I want them to see when I'm 60, 70, 80 that, oh, dad is old and frail, but he's still dreaming. He's still thinking
pushing boundaries.
He's still wanting to achieve things in his life and take things off his bucket list. Like, I want my kids to see that. And I'm only saying that now because that's what my kids are doing today. They're like, I want to do this. I want to go here. That's the energy that I want to take for the rest of my life.
Make it intentional and lead by example, and let them know that those are all possible on that list.
How are you doing this, man? You got kids 4 and 2. like tell me what you were doing or what you're thinking about in terms of raising your kids. And I'm asking this because like I don't know how to be a great parent. I don't know how to be a great father. And I'm trying to get like advice from people like you.
I ask the same question to everybody and those who I think are great parents, and they say they don't know either. They kind of just go with the flow.
Yeah.
Right. But I think leading by example is, one thing. Fitness, health, doing what we're doing right now, pushing, staying out of the norm. If they see that, and as they grow up, past, 6, 7, 8, 9, they see that mom and dad are doing certain things, leading by example is going to be the best way.
100%. And I love that you said that. I believe that it's not what you say, it's what you do at the end of the day. Yeah. And like, I just believe that my kids are not listening to me at all. Like I feel like if I tell them something like, hey, do this. I
just had this conversation with Chris over here, and I said, Chris, how do your kids listen to us? Like, they never listen to me.
Yeah. I don't think that they're listening, but I do think that they're watching.
Yes.
And it's not what you say, it's the thousands of different interactions or the things that you are doing that they're going to absorb. Yeah. And they're going to see, and they'll be like, oh, my, because they're observing. And you might not think that they're listening because they're watching Paw Patrol, but they're seeing in the background. They're watching your moves in 4K.
Yeah, it's funny. My little one, 2 years old, she has a toy cell phone. She brought it up to her grandma the other day and was like, "I need to charge this." Like, that's watching. They're watching what's happening, and you're saying you got to plug in the phone, so they're really mimicking and watching every little move.
And you know what's wild is that we live in a different time. In where I wish my dad passed away in 2008, but I wish I could see my father and how he was at my age. I wanted to see what his moves were. I wanted to see like what was he thinking at that time. But today our kids can. Like literally our kids are watching us in 4K. It's all documented. At some point, our camera roll is going to be out. And they're going to see everything that we thought. They're going to see this podcast. They're going to see what their dad was saying at this age. And all of that will be documented. So if you think about that, you literally have a documentary film crew in your pocket. They're watching every single one of your moves. So if they are watching every single one of your moves.
How are we making those moves?
Exactly. Are you going to sit and like, and stay complacent if they're watching your moves? You literally think about yourself. Take yourself outside of your body. Be like, how would my kids see this right now? Yeah. Because they are. They literally are.
I don't like the word comfortable. Like, this makes me nervous to be here with you today. But if I'm not feeling that, nervousness, then I'm not growing. That's how I think of it.
I love that. And you don't have to be nervous, man. We're boys.
This guy's a superstar.
We're friends. So that's why I honestly feel like our kids are watching us at all times now. But they can review it
later.
For the first time, they have an instant replay of their dad and be like, hey, what was my dad doing at 53 years old? Oh, he was doing, it's wild.
A couple questions before we wrap up. I want to know what's next for Shawn, and how are you disrupting yourself? What's your 3%? The book is out. Your shows are out. What's the next move? How are you disrupting your everyday life now? Yeah. I know you're continuously disrupting, so.
Listen, I really appreciate you reading this book, and I see you're dropping little things here and there. The 3% rule, which is part of the book, which I talk about the idea that to be disruptive, you only have to like innovate. You only need to innovate by 3%. So listen, I really appreciate that. I'm always thinking about what's next. How do I disrupt myself?
That's a hard question.
I don't want to, and I think part of disrupting yourself is detaching yourself from your particular identity, right? Being comfortable assuming another identity. I look at life as kind of like, different rooms in your house. You have an identity where people know you as a speaker, or an identity where some people know you as a thought leader or consultant, or, maybe a room where people know you as a podcaster or, an entertainer. For me, it's like constantly exploring those different types of identities. And one of the things that I realized for myself is I think my mission in life is to help people create value in their lives. And I believe that the greatest way for me to achieve my mission in life is actually, one of the ways is through content. And I love this medium. I love the idea of putting out the book, the special, videos, podcasts, audio, just putting that out in the world and seeing how that can create value in the world. The greatest pleasure that I have in life is somebody DMing me and saying, I started a new project. I left my job. I started a new career because I saw that video. I read that passage. Let me just do that 1,000 times every single day. So to me, this is one of the greatest ways for me to make a dent in the universe.
Impact.
So impact. So for me, it's like, how do I do this in different ways? How do I put out content in different ways? So whether it's creating a show, whether it's going on a tour right now, like clients pay me to you can go on stages, but we're on the path of creating our own show, right, or our own tour. So it's
so you don't
it's
sit
like,
back and wait. You make it happen.
So yeah, it's like creating these different avenues for me to get this message out in the world and experimenting with different ways of doing that. And by the way, I'm gonna fall on my face a ton, but I want to continue to explore that. I want to create movies. I want to create shows. I want to like just explore these different avenues. And to me, that's how I'm doing that. So we're always like working on things. Literally, like I literally came back from shooting something where we're experimenting with doing like basically like dropping like an album of I'm not a singer, I'm not a rapper, I'm not a musician, but how do we mix music with the audio of this book and do it in a way so that people can run. I know you're a big runner, so like listen to something that somebody can run to and mix those two things. And it probably won't work, by the way, but how can I experiment?
You don't know unless you try.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do I continue to experiment in this field? And that's what I want to do.
Amazing. Last question I have for you. What is your definition of success?
To me, my definition of success is to continue to push. It's continue to be bold. I realize this. This book, I don't write about happiness. I don't know anything about the word happiness. There's a lot of people that are experts in the world of happiness. But what I realized after writing this book and getting those hundreds of DMs and thousands of DMs from people is that I realized that this book is actually about happiness. I realized that by pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, by sitting in that pocket of darkness or uncertainty, by flexing those muscles of experimentation, of exploration, of play, that ultimately you're actually making yourself happier, to be stronger, to be
fulfilled and grow,
to be fulfilled, to grow, to explore, to try a new career, to pivot, to reinvent. That's actually about happiness at the end of the day. So to be stronger, to be bold, to innovate, to fight the status quo, you're actually happier. To not be complacent, you're actually happier. So to me, this book is actually about happiness. And that's what success is all about, to continue to explore. Somebody asked me a question after one of my keynotes, and he was like, yo, so I read your book, what happens? I'm bold, what's the point? I'm going to die, right? What's the point of all this? You're going to die. Yeah, you're right. You are going to die. But I think the point of life is to continue to explore. It's continue to pursue your passions. That's the point. And then you're going to die. Like, that is the point.
But you're happy.
Yeah, but you're going to be happy. You're going to be happy pushing yourself.
I don't want to look back one day and be like, I didn't try those things. I wish I did.
And isn't that like, if you look back and you listen to people on their deathbed, what do they regret the most? They regret the fact that they weren't able to, number one, it's like they didn't spend enough time with friends and family. Fine. But the next thing is that they weren't able to accomplish things that they wanted to do. They wanted to try. And they realized later on that the thing that was actually holding me back was that I was fearful or was afraid of what people said. And what they don't realize is that they were afraid of what people said, but all those people are already dead or are dying anyways.
Yeah.
So what does it matter? They're dead.
Yeah.
We
You know how much afraid what people say holds people back?
it's
That's the biggest factor. And they might not even be, you're thinking they're going to say that. They may not even be thinking that. And that's holding yourself back.
exactly.
Yeah.
And most of those people are actually not really thinking about you anyways.
Yeah.
So you might as well do the thing that you want to do in life. And I think it's incredibly inspiring.
Amazing. Well, man, this was amazing.
This was incredible.
Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And hope we can do this again.
Listen, I just want to give you your flowers. I love this. I love this conversation. Okay. I love what you're doing here.
Thank you.
I think what you're creating this is going to be a rocket ship. It looks amazing, feels amazing. And let's do it again. I want to be on episode 100.
Okay, let's do it.
I want
You're
to be
booked
on
in now
episode
for episode 100.
100.
Yeah.
I'm going to be back on and ask me how I'm disrupting myself again. And I'll show you what I'm doing.
Sounds good.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much.